pleasant hello, and thank you for getting up with us at ESPN. As you can see, we are jam-packed this morning, and we have a lot to get to, primarily football conversation, and it starts in Big D. The Dallas Cowboys off to a 3-0 start, so you would think that everything is about as calm as it could be, and you would think that Jason Garrett's seat is about as safe as it's been at any time in his tenure. But take a listen to Jerry Jones on the radio yesterday when asked about a possible extension of Garrett's contract.
I'm not ignoring your question, but I certainly wouldn't want to respond in any way because that's just not what we'd want to do relative to that area of our business.
I don't want to quibble, but if you say I'm not ignoring your question and then ignore the question, I suppose you are ignoring the question. Anyway, as far as Jason Garrett, his 80 regular season wins are second most in Cowboys history. No one is ever going to catch Tom Landry. We all know the real issues lie in the postseason. So, Maria, what gives?
Where's the question? Our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. So thank God that you're here today. What are the updates that you can give us on head coach Jason Garrett's future in Dallas?
Look, they've done this before. In 2014, Jason Garrett was entering the last year of his contract. They didn't give him a new one before the season started. He went 12-4, and then they gave him a 5-year extension, which he's now at the end of. So they like to do it this way. The important thing for people to understand is Jerry Jones would like Jason Garrett to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys for a long time and be successful at it. That's his top choice. But if he does not have a successful season this year with a playoff run, you could be looking at changes. You could be hearing names like Lincoln Riley or inside the building names like Chris Richard, Kellen Moore. And there are even people who think that the next Dallas Cowboys coach at some point could be Jason Witten. So it might be soon for that, but those are the kinds of things you're going to hear.
Oh, well, Garrett is the second longest tenured coach at the Dallas Cowboys, but they haven't been to a conference championship since '95, Greeny.
Yeah, and let me tell you, when you said the name Jason Witten, the entire room just sort of perked up here a little bit. So what do we make of this situation? Having a season going as well as this one is, with absolutely everything on the line, it is Super Bowl or bust for Dallas in the way they have handled this. Do you like the notion that the coach is coaching for his job with this situation?
Well, players are always playing for their job, so I don't have any problem with the coach coaching for his job in this situation, but I do have a problem with Jerry Jones always being out in front in the media and saying things that he is going to talk about or he isn't going to talk about when he's actually always talking about everything. So Jerry Jones wants the attention on him, which is why Jason Garrett is probably the perfect coach no matter how this season turns out.
For me, the thing is, we're used to hearing Jerry Jones talk about the people he wants to give money to. We've heard him talk about Dak. They obviously talked about Ezekiel Elliott. And so in this situation, we know that he loves Jason Garrett, but this is a prove me year. And more so than not knowing if Jason Garrett is going to be the coach next year, I believe Jerry already knows who he wants to replace him. That's the question we should be asking. This is a year that he's going to be Super Bowl or bust. I believe if they don't get to that point, if they're not at least contending in the NFC Championship, that Jason Garrett is gone and Jerry Jones finally moves on to somebody else.
And that somebody else is, do you think it's Lincoln Riley? Do you think it's Jason Witten?
I would hope it's not Jason Witten, and that's no disrespect to Jason Witten, but we've done I want the head coach to be the dude that will sit in my box and come over for Thanksgiving. He needs to go about this search in a way that this organization is America's team because they win, not because we talk about them all the time.
And let me add to that, Dominique, that under normal circumstances, I would not be in favor of having a coach in the final year of his contract because a coach has to have one eye on the present and at least some portion of his other eye on the future. But that's not the circumstance in Dallas this year. We know they have loaded up to win it all this year, and that's the only consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better situation if I was Jason Garrett, frankly, is you come up on a contract year and have a team that is as loaded as they are and have all the pressure on you to make the right decisions. And I think that he's going to succeed. But I disagree with you, Ryan, when you say that they should go out and do it a different way. The one thing that's constant, the one thing that's not going to change is Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones is not an owner who can coexist with a coach that wants any more power or attention than him. So I think a guy like Jason Garrett is perfect because Jason Garrett is fine with playing the background.
Oh, absolutely. I believe Jason Garrett is perfect for Jerry Jones. Right. But when I say do it a different way, if you have a guy like Kellen Moore or Chris Richard who have been brought up through the organization, those people will understand how it works in Dallas. Now, you can't go out and get another Jimmy Jones type or Barry Switzer. We understand that from his coaching standpoint, which is why I don't believe Lincoln Riley is the guy for the Dallas Cowboys.
The other thing I'll say is here's a team that is thinking Super Bowl thoughts and has its head coach and quarterback in the last years of their contract. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing.
Here's why it's smart,
that's unusual.
Here's why it's smart. You have two people who have performed the best when their backs were against the wall, and right now Dak is showing you that and Jason Garrett.
All right, so we start in Dallas this morning. Maria, next up, Cleveland.
Yes, next up, the Browns, whose 2019 start to the season hasn't gone as planned. They're under 500 with a lot of criticism coming toward their head coach, Freddie Kitchens, and his questionable play calling during their loss to the Rams on Sunday night. So let's put it this way. You can't really win games if you don't score. The Browns are averaging 16 points per game. You can't score if you don't get first downs. The Browns are 26th in the league in that stat. And you can't extend drives if you don't convert on third downs. The Browns are 28th in the NFL at just under 30%. So that's a lot of numbers that might cause concern. How concerned right now, Dan Graziano, are the Browns inside their organization?
They're concerned because this offseason there was sort of an apprehensive optimism around the Browns' decision makers. They believe they have a good team. They still believe that. The problem is the concerns that they had about if we're not a good team, how would that look? That's what's happened so far. The offensive line, the first-year head coach, the still developing young quarterback. You know, obviously they're very excited about Baker Mayfield, but nobody saw him as a finished product coming into this year. So that the fact that the first 3 games have sort of revealed what they were worried about makes them a little more worried about it. There's still some confidence in that building that, hey, they will turn it around. This will start to work. But it would be better if it happened sooner rather than later, just for everyone's nerves.
Yeah, and maybe something else to be concerned about for the Browns. They're the most penalized team in the NFL, so discipline potentially could be a problem as well, Greeny.
Those are things, Maria, and again, I don't want to, sort of tap dance around it. I mean, the reality of it is, as we look at their schedule coming up, it's difficult. The things that have gone wrong with them are things that usually go wrong with badly coached teams. These are things we talk about. The play calling is inexplicable. How they don't run the ball down by the goal line. How they don't give Odell Beckham one chance to win them the game down by the goal line. All the penalties. These are things that we usually talk about, and we say, that's not a well-coached football team. I feel like we are hesitant for some reason to say that about the Browns right now.
No, I'm not hesitant. I don't think anyone on this set is hesitant. I think we all agree that. We agree with that. We aren't surprised by that. But I'm going to try to give the Browns a little bit of optimism. Their defense has played very well, considering the fact that they had 2 starting corners out. Yeah. They played really well against an offense that we all respect, and they're going in there in a division that, frankly, is the Ravens and 2 other teams that aren't very good. I'm not happy with what the Browns are doing. I think that they chose the wrong guy as their head coach, and I think that we got a little ahead of ourselves as far as anointing Baker Mayfield like the second coming.
Well, let's talk about Baker Mayfield, Ryan. What are you seeing in him?
Baker Mayfield has regressed. Anytime you come into the season and now Gardner Minshew is more Baker Mayfield than Baker Mayfield, then that's an issue. When you have a guy who was a 6th-round pick and he's doing the things I expected to see in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield's not sitting in the pocket. They're not pushing the ball down the field. And you spoke to some of the things that lead us to believe that there's bad coaching. They're not on the details. And I don't necessarily believe that Freddie Kitchens is a detailed guy. A huge reason why this team was successful down the stretch is the way that Greg Williams organizes an organization. And I think they're missing that right now. Those are things that can change, but it better change quickly because we see the type of schedule that this team has coming up.
Yeah, we put it up there for you a few minutes ago. It gets late early. Now, you made an interesting point. That division does not figure to run away from them unless Baltimore runs away and hides. So they have a little bit of time to get this thing right. But as I opened the show by saying, it's getting late early for the Browns.
Yeah, I think it is getting late early. I think it was late when they decided to hire Freddie Kitchens. I'm not sure the reason behind hiring Freddie Kitchens outside of people saying Baker liked him. And I think that Freddie is putting a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield in order to make plays that I'm not sure he's ready to make. He hasn't really proven us. They beat some bad teams last year, and he's been kind of turnover prone. So I think there are still questions out there. As much as we want to anoint Baker this next great guy, I think he came in that Thursday night and brought him that win out of nowhere that we didn't expect, and that got us a lot higher on him than I think maybe we should be.
The huge issue I have with Baker Mayfield is the way I felt about LSU quarterbacks for the last 20 years. The first time I see him, I say, this dude has it. He's going to be great. I can't wait to see him progress. The first time we saw Baker, that's the best we've ever seen him. It was on Thursday night. He comes in and leads them to a win over the New York Jets. He's regressed ever since then, and that's a coaching issue, and that's an issue that has to be fixed.
Is it fair or unfair not to point out the fact that this is a team that had 0 wins 2 years ago? I mean, like they were the worst team in NFL history 2 years ago.
It's fair, but if we're going to talk about teams tanking, it's also fair to say that it's not working working right now, and you have to continue to use those things wisely in order to win.
All right, so we'll see what happens in Cleveland. Maria, next up is Daniel Jones.
Yeah, let's have some good news in the NFL, Greeny, because Jones posted a total QBR of 87.9 in his first career start. That's better than Eli had in any of his 31 games with at least 50 action plays since 2006 when the QBR first started.